One. Hey, Guy. Welcome to the NTM Growth Marketing Podcast. I'm excited to be speaking with you today.
Hey, Andrew, thanks for having me. I'm just excited as you are. Thank you.
Before we hit record, we were talking about a wide range of things. I'm not going to make this political. That was, your initial thought. Something that really stood out to me before we hit record and talking about Abarius. You have a 25-year marketing trajectory before you joined this organization about a year ago. I'd love for you to share some of the differences of marketing at a company who's about 2 years old versus, in that 25-year marketing trajectory, and assuming you've been at companies, bigger, smaller, whatever it looks like how is marketing different at a organization at this size and scale and growth?
That's a great question. And, luckily for me, I can say I really to me, I hit the jackpot having worked in all kinds of environments, starting with startups and all kinds of retail organizations, mobility companies at different stages, whether it's already enterprises or corporates or up and coming startups in the growth stage. So the marketing really differs from one to the other. Obviously, in enterprise companies, it's more about the acquisition and the polishing the brand, I'd say, of that specific companies, and a lot of matrix and analytics of the cost per click, the ROI on each and every campaign, lots of campaigns going around all of the time. This is basically what you're kind of like running after when you're working in an enterprise or a corporate level company. Whereas when you're building something from scratch, which is the situation here in Abarius, we are only 2 years old, and the marketing function has only been around for since January 1st here. But also in other, let's call it even more advanced startups, it's first about understanding what your story is. Why did this company come about? Then, learning and building your unique selling proposition, your USPs, and only then starting to build the brand story behind it. That's what we're doing that's what we've done this past year in Abarius. We've built the brand, the start of the brand, whether it's the visual identity, whether it's the storytelling, and how to convey the messages, which is supremely important, especially in case of B2B startups, and especially in the cybersecurity realm, which we are in.
What is the story that you're wanting to tell through Abarius?
Well, the story is that Abarius was not actually born as a startup, and that's the beauty of it. It was born out of the need of 4 security engineers that were just fed up with working daily manually, trying to manage what we call security policies and organizations, which is a completely tedious work, very meticulous and very time consuming and very manual, and these could take up to months, sometimes years. These projects can take. So they were looking for a way to make their lives easier and basically build a tool that will help them. And that's what they did, the founders of the company. And eventually, they understood, once they started implementing these tools at the clients that they were working with, the clients were like, okay, cool. Can you leave us that software? Can you, we're willing to pay for that. And that's basically how Abarius started. That's why we are actually a bootstrap startup. We have not raised money yet. And that going back to your question, of what's the difference between marketing in different startup levels or different company levels. When you're in a startup, and especially in a bootstrap startup, a lot of your marketing is tilted towards investors and resellers and partners, and not necessarily to the what we usually refer to as user acquisition, because you need to you're small, you don't have the budget for a lot of salespeople, for instance, so you need to scale without spend, I'd call it like that. Okay, so it's a lot to do with resellers and partners, and Obviously, you're looking for that, investor or investors or VCs to come in and, invest in you, and then you can start really executing. I'll call it the conventional marketing, or apply the conventional marketing techniques. And that's exciting. That's very
I
exciting.
love your answer in a moment to what are, you raise that money, what are the conventional marketing tactics that you want to deploy? But I want to give a contrasting example with a company this past weekend at an event I was at that seemed like they just had the budget to throw whatever they want out there. So I was at a marketing conference, like I mentioned before we hit record. Doritos was there. I don't know if Doritos is in Israel. Okay, they are. Okay. So they were giving out free samples of this new product they're launching. There's 8,000 attendees at this event. I think I grabbed 6 of those over the course of 3 days. So you multiply 8,000 attendees, like they probably had 20,000 of these little bags ready to give out. That's a lot of money they just deployed there. That's something that you would not have the budget for, just to have no ROI trackability on that.
Well,
like, where would your conventional marketing tactics go to when you raise that money?
Look, there's a lot to be said about that. First of all, there is a major difference between, B2C and B2B. Obviously, Doritos is a B2C brand. They're looking at the individual consumer at the end. Obviously, they have the retail business, but eventually they're looking at the lone consumer coming into 7-Eleven or whatever and taking Doritos off the shelf. So advertising is one of the major tools that the retail world has. I myself, worked with Coca-Cola in the past, and I was doing exactly the same thing, some crazy stuff with a lot of budget that I had, not only to give out samples of Doritos or Coca-Cola or whatever, but to execute a lot of very creative marketing ideas in the field to facilitate those advertising. And I have to tell you, I have taken this experience with me to my vast years of experience. But even now today, with Alberius, a very small startup, we have very little budget. But this is something that I carry with me, this creative thinking and how to execute at a low budget, but get maximum attention, maximum pull, or I don't know, interest. And that's actually, we were actually in May, we were in RSA. And obviously it's a floor of, I think 800 or 850 different vendors.
Wow.
Some huge ones like Wiz, like Checkpoint, like Microsoft, whatever. And obviously we are the most, we had a very tiny booth, like 10 by 10 feet. But we use that, I can show you if you want, but we have kind of a storytelling about, our own ring, if you can see it.
Tell me the story about that.
Yeah,
I can see it.
we built a story about, how this ring tells the Alberius story on 3 levels. One is the perfect round shape, where we how we manage the entire life cycle of network security policies. The second thing is that just like Lord of the Rings and one ring to rule
That's where
them
my
all.
mind was going.
Yeah, exactly. So we have one click to rule them walls, because we control all of the firewalls through one click in our platform. So that's a good, connection, storytelling, referring to something, to some pop culture reference. And last but not least, this ring is also a spinner ring. So that's why this is, because what we do is we save a security engineer's time. So we give them this so they'll have something to do with their hands. So
Can I elaborate a little bit more on the Lord of the Rings reference?
Yeah, so again, just like Lord of the Rings, one ring to rule them all. We are in the firewall business. So our platform is one click to rule them firewalls, because our clients are enterprise clients. And when you do network security in enterprise environment, you have many different firewalls, many different firewall vendors. And as a result, many different management systems to each and every firewall. So what our platform does is it consolidates them all, hence one click to rule them walls. And
I
this,
want to dive into the culturally relevant, reference to Lord of the Rings and why you decided on that. So my mind went to that was brilliant for you because you're probably trying to sell to slightly nerdy individuals who I'm sure watch Lord of the Rings. Whenever they see a ring, my mind immediately went to Lord of the Rings. Versus you could have chose like Taylor Swift, but I don't know if that would have created the same emotional reaction. So can you share why it was so important to choose a culturally relevant item?
Two things. Three, maybe. Honestly, first of all, I'm not familiar with the, I have to say, maybe I'm too old, but I'm not that familiar with the Taylor Swift ring or whatever.
There is no Taylor Swift ring, which is why it'd be terrible too.
It might have been a better reference. Maybe I'm out of date. I don't know. Two things about the ring and, the reference. First of all, I agree. But it's not only for the nerdy ones, I'd say. I like to always embed or try to embed as much as the pop culture references as I can, because most people, nerdy or not, if it's out there, if it's well known enough, it will immediately resonate with you and create some kind of an emotional connection for you, and it will pique your interest. And that's what I'm looking for when I'm doing this kind of a, let's call it 3-minute speech, especially at conferences where the attention span is very short. And the second thing is I really looked at the benefit that our platform gives, and it connects almost seamlessly, because just like the quote of the one ring to rule all of the other rings in the world, our platform takes all of the walls and all of the firewalls and controls them. So in my mind, when you're looking at B2B marketing, which is usually very, very heavy on, benefits, data, percentages, etc., which it should be. But eventually there are people who are making the decisions. And you need to touch a chord in their hearts, I'd say, or in their minds, never mind. And I think this, unique kind of pitch is doing the trick. And I have to tell you, we are running with this slogan, one click to rule them walls. And I have to tell you, I just started to tell you about this, in RSA. So there were like 900 presenters, and we were like chosen by 2 or 3 different blogs for the most creative slogan out of these. And we are like by far the smallest of us. So it was a genuine recognition and a nice way. And also the presentation of the rings, we put them all around our booth and whatever, and it just created such a huge turnout. We didn't even have to solicit anyone to come to our booth. Again, huge for us because we are a very small team, and we obviously, it created a lot of spam leads because people came for the ring, but it created also a lot of very relevant good leads. And the follow-up, which is the most crucial one, the follow-up later with the emails and stuff, just mentioning, oh, you remember us and our ring story,
right?
Really resonated with people later, helping us set meetings and get customers. And that's eventually in the bottom line, that's what we are all about at this point.
I want you to share a little bit more on what advice you have for B2B marketers on how to make their marketing more fun, like Alberius. And I'll give that Doritos example. When I got to the free sample station, they had a football to throw through a little ring. And then I'm sure the emotional subconscious thing is like, they want me to be watching the NFL and then think of Doritos from that one experience I had throwing, a thing through a ring and getting my free sample bag, which is fun. And I always feel like that's reserved for the B2C space, but you clearly have made B2B marketing fun. And what advice do you have for other folks on how they can make their B2B marketing enjoyable and fun like you?
I'd say 2 things, which one is an advice, one is kind of like beware of, I'd say. And that's true, but I think to B2C and B2B marketing just as well. It's always dangerous, especially when you have a lot of money, by the way, to fall into kind of like the trendy, the cool, the extravagant kind of thing that will attract the people to you, never mind if you're a B2B or a B2C marketer. And to me, the most crucial thing about any activity that I make or any campaign that I do is that the marketing, the creative, eventually will serve the purpose of the business, and it will leave the audience wherever it's B2B or B2C, leave the audience with the messages that I want them to receive, and not just remember that they got, I don't know, a Doritos packet in their hand, or they threw a football or whatever. I need, especially in the, and that's true especially in the B2B world, you need to correlate between your creative and your benefits. Otherwise, in a world with so many vendors, so many messages that CISOs are getting, especially in the cybersecurity world, it will get lost. Mm-hmm. So they might remember, oh, I got a football, I threw it, and I saw it a lot in RSA, for example, lightsabers, whatever, you know, a lot of cool stuff. I won't say it won't cool. I grabbed some for myself and my kids. But the question I'm asking always, does it resonate your product benefits or your brand? Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't, then I wouldn't say you wasted money. It always depends if you have a lot of money or not, obviously. But if you don't have a lot of money, you can't. It's a luxury. And you know, us giving out those rings, for instance, I was seeing the guys after, you know, in the follow-up calls when we had, I was seeing the guys were coming on the calls and they were like, look, I'm spinning your ring, I'm spinning your ring. So this is something that has resonated with them, and I'm not sure, you know, I'm seeing other people going on meetings and kind of, oh, here I have your football or whatever. So the correlation between your swag or your creative, that's my advice, you know. Make it connect the dots.
Perfect, Guy. And lastly, to round us out, can you share the best ways to follow up with you and your organization?
Yeah, first of all, I'm happy to and welcoming any kind of direct messaging, whether on Messenger or LinkedIn. If you want, you can share my email as well, no problem. Obviously, our website, which is it's going through a revamp right now as part of the new branding, and will be probably live in a week or so. So you can contact us through there. We'll be at VMware Explore in Vegas on the end of August. So if you're there, jump on board or go to Vegas. We'd love to have you, Andrew, and everyone who's coming, every network security professional. And we have some other conferences. We are going to New York City for CyberTech. So we are on the road a lot, but the best ways to contact us are either through the website, directly through me or any of the Alberius workers on LinkedIn. We'd be happy to.
Perfect, Guy. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.